Now you use your thinking head, not your drinking head.
I got crawdads in my pants.
Oh, hey!
It's time to break down another Better Call Saul episode in order. A lot of you have been waiting for this one, which happens to be the 100th Breaking Bad Universe episode, and therefore my 100th Such Hidden Details video, which I simply can't believe. In this one, you'll see my favorite outtake, everyone's favorite villain, and I've got 84 details you might not know in Season 4, Episode 8, Coushatta. This episode has a surprising number of shots that start with a door, drawer, or in this case, trunk opening. There's no way I can count this across the series, so get back, counter, but I'll unofficially count them just inside this episode. Jimmy's wearing a wire.
Wire.
I think I got everything.
You're back on Thursday.
Yeah, unless we break down in Amarillo.
Get it? We'll see that Jimmy's going to Coushatta, and the route does indeed pass through Amarillo. He'll start on a bus going to Houston, switch to a Shreveport bus, then to a Lafayette bus.
It's kind of a long drive, isn't it?
And I'm going to count the very rough cost of this scheme as we go, starting with Kim's shopping trip from the last episode, which is probably the most difficult to estimate. The bus ticket prices are based on Greyhound prices at the time.
I don't take this for granted.
Kim's key jumps up during this camera angle change, but even more notable is the looping extra that you'll never be able to unsee.
It means a lot.
I'll see you Thursday.
This building was digitally altered to remove the Greyhound branding and add Transit Center. The song for this montage, Burnin' Coal, will reappear in the Season 2 premiere of Severance. They chose it here because of its improvisational feel, reflecting how Jimmy's often improvising. This was the last thing they filmed with a partial crew, while the rest of the crew got started filming the next episode with a pretty important director. A-camera operator Paul Donahue acted as the director of photography for just the bus ride before becoming a DP later in Better Call Saul and Pluribus. If we look closely at the postcards, we get clues about the plan. We see them being addressed to Judge Munsinger, and the address matches the real-life former courthouse building that the show uses as the current courthouse. We can also see return addresses in Coushatta. Ringgold Avenue's a real street there.
I licked a ton of stamps. My tongue is like hamburger meat. Then I found out there's a sponge for that. Oops, rookie mistake.
Can I sit here?
I had a pile of cheese chili fries back at Stuckey's with onions on top.
There is one Stuckey's along the route in Henrietta, although in 2004 it was instead one in Adrian. And although many Stuckey's don't serve much hot food, the Shape found this confirmation that this specific location did at least serve fries.
He wants their big time special with fries. They're deep frying Eric's French fries right now.
So Jimmy's story, while perhaps a lie, is believable.
The last guy who sat here didn't last 5 miles, but welcome to it.
Jimmy's list contains numbers with the correct 318 area code, although all fake since they have a 0 or 1 after that. These names and addresses were written on the envelopes, as we can see from Prop Store Auction. This also reveals that they created at least 574 pieces of mail, and they used period-appropriate 37-cent stamps, as it was up to 50 cents at the time of filming. 5-Hour Energy was introduced later this year, and Jimmy's drinking the orange flavor, which wasn't introduced until 2008.
Janetta, very nice. I like the hearts over the eyes. This is a real nice touch.
Thank you.
How many we got?
10.
This is really Albuquerque out there, not a green screen, although they used visual effects to make it look less dry and more green. They drove in a loop right by the studio in a spot close to the river.
Would you like to do some postcards? It's 50 cents per.
So how much did he pay his helpers? He spent roughly 20 hours on the bus, and he only used helpers on the third bus, the final hour of the trip. We see 7, but I'll say Jimmy had 10 helpers who work at the same average rate as Jimmy, considering his fatigue and tricks to vary his handwriting. With what we know about the mail from Prop Store Auction, we can solve for this average rate. That means the 10 helpers over 1 hour completed about 207 items, and with the mix of letters and postcards, that gives us $181 paid to his fellow passengers.
Oh, Bubba, hey, maybe tone down the anger. You're sad that you even have to write the letter.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
How many we got?
5.
Chastity, let's see what you've got. Don't use swears. I thought we talked about respect.
Bob improvised those lines. Indeed, if you look closely at the note, it doesn't look like she swore. They did not really travel to Coushatta. As usual, this is Albuquerque, at what was a church at the time with a lot of digital effects applied. That includes the trees, although the flag was real, and you can see some evidence of this around it. They did make this look more like the Deep South compared to the real Coushatta in North Louisiana. AMC has shot several shows in Louisiana, including the short-lived Parish, so they considered really sending Bob there and having the crew from a different AMC show film him, but it was too complicated to pull off. That's second assistant director Lulani's dog. The script included Jimmy going back home on the bus and sleeping now that the mission was accomplished, but they liked ending on this long shot instead. After the title sequence, we start the episode the same way it'll end. And Nacho's back for the first time in 4 episodes, which was 9 months ago in the show. That 50 just says the United States on top, which tips off that it's prop money. We hear the first of many songs from the future in the background.
I'm a little late, yo. Couldn't do nothing about it.
The detail of Nacho's poker chip was planned before the script was even written, so it could indeed represent Nacho wanting to cash out. With Hector in recovery, Tuco in prison, and the cousins lying low in Mexico, Nacho has become the new Hector, and Crazy 8 is now the new Nacho. Gus has successfully installed a mole to lead the Salamanca organization.
You have more to do.
We gonna make you right next time.
Goddamn right you will.
For sure. Next week.
Hey, come here.
What's up?
They pause the on-screen credits for almost a minute here, so it doesn't interfere with this drama.
You goddamn right.
What you owe with interest.
You had to do that, man. You guys not gonna learn otherwise.
So why didn't you do it?
Who works for who?
Domingo.
You goddamn right.
Nacho now drives a nice car and has a nice house with a fancy TV that was released in 2004, although not until the end of the year. This is the first of 2 episodes directed by Jim McKay, although he directed 1 episode of Breaking Bad all the way back in season 1. He said this was one of his favorite shots in the episode. And if you're wondering why this says 18 again, it's because I made a mistake last time and should have only counted this as half a feet. This is also half a feet, now bringing us to 18 total. And this is why I shouldn't be trusted to count things.
Hey, baby. You're in early.
Want us to make you some dinner?
Thanks, babe. Are you gonna smoke with us?
The real-life house was decorated very differently, not decked out in sleek criminal red like this. The homeowner was about to have a baby, so it was more child-friendly. His wounds have healed nicely. Our first reaction to post-time jump Nacho is supposed to be, uh-oh, he's become one of them. But here we realize that he's playing a role and he hates it. Peter Gould said Nacho finally gets to the position he would have wanted when just getting started, but now that he's here, he realizes how many catches there are. And Gordon Smith, who wrote this episode, describes the safe as Nacho's heart, with all the flashy stuff being just for show. Gordon also views Nacho much like Jesse, as he got into this world for money, but then he's just trying to survive as things get out of hand. Nacho's criminal red tank top is channeling Voss. And now we see Nacho's plan for escaping with his dad. Why Canada? The creators gave 2 reasons. It's a nod to Michael Mando being Canadian, and he's running away from people in Mexico, so going north rather than south felt right. Now let's talk about these IDs. These are based on a style that wasn't introduced until 2017, and they're IDs but not driver's licenses, so Nacho's not going to risk driving while hiding out in Winnipeg. There are some intentional differences from real IDs, like info on the left and photo on the right, the Manitoba logo being slightly different, the different colors, and changing the bison to a bull. But there's also 2 hilarious mistakes on them. Whoever made these must have copied this example ID thinking that public was some kind of ID designation. But the example ID is for a fictional person named James Q. Public, so the Public here was a last name. That makes Nacho and Manuel's new identities Martin Cavallo Public and Felipe Cavallo Public. Also, Nacho's ID is modeled after one for minors and has a turns 18 on date that just repeats the expiration date, even though the ID says he's 32. It looks like Manuel's has one too under his thumb. The ID also says Nacho's 6 feet tall, even though Michael Mando is 5'9". This is exactly what they did with Jimmy versus Bob. Finally, this is a real street in Winnipeg, although not a real house number. A lot of you have been waiting patiently for Winnipeg to be mentioned, but none more than these 2 who trekked out to this very street to share this video.
Winnipeg mentioned!
This is a fake tattoo done by makeup artist Sherry, and the song playing is again from the future. Like Nacho, Werner's not interested in the ladies. This is the same bar Mike went to in season 2.
This gentleman's buying a round for the house.
And in Breaking Bad, Louis' Pub and Grill. In real life, it's over on Manal, and there's a lot here besides Tampico Furniture. It's right next to Duke City Recliners.
Put your feet up.
And very close to CC Mobile. They didn't do it the other times we were here, but they turned all the bottles to avoid showing brand names.
My father was also an engineer. You see over there? He built that.
The Sydney Opera House.
To that, my father gave 10 years of life.
Peter Gould has emphasized that Werner's dad was one of many construction engineers on the project, not the architect, and he shouldn't be blamed for the notorious failures of its construction, finishing a decade late and dramatically over budget. The point here is that there's a public monument to his dad's work, but Werner's near-impossible engineering feats will remain a secret as far as he knows.
Ziegler, magnificent bastard.
For my father, it was his achievement.
At some angles, the lighting equipment can be seen pretty clearly in Werner's glasses.
The creation I will endure.
The postcards are a nice touch, and some were there in Breaking Bad, but here they're contributing to multiple violations of Albuquerque's fire code.
Could I get the Hefeweizen this time?
Oh, it's Hefeweizen.
Hefeweizen?
Vollkommen richtig. It's on me.
Thanks, man.
What about you, Michael? Your papa, what did he do?
Left behind a cold water flat and stack of bills. That's about all.
Not true. He also left you. You are his legacy.
And Mike's is Maddie. Oof.
You ever think about having kids, being a papa yourself?
My Margareta, she's enough for me. She's my heart. This is the longest I've ever been away from her. Never this long away from home.
Nobody wants to leave home. To home.
When they were writing the outline for this season, originally Werner's name was going to be Fritz.
Hey, Mike.
I'll be fine. Go.
You're not throwing me out. I paid my money.
You paid to look, not touch, asshole.
This was filmed at the Real Fantasy World, although the show added the fluorescent arrows and purposely had one appear to be burned out. And they added this sign to clarify that they had rented out the entire place, so it's a private show.
I'm calling the cops.
No. You don't need to call the cops.
Who the hell are you?
The guy who's telling you this one's had too much, and I'm here to get him out of your hair.
Kai's wearing a German football club jersey, and the logo is correct. The 09 refers to their founding in 1909.
This idiot goes home.
I paid.
You are done. Get him out of here. The girl. This is for her trouble. All good?
Yeah, man. We're cool.
Like this. The final structure has strict requirements.
This guy is a friend of Peter's and was in an X-Files episode that Vince directed.
Load-bearing walls.
Very good. Now you use your thinking head, not your drinking head.
Time to go.
Come sit with us.
Your wife's calling?
My wife.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your hospitality. Auf Wiedersehen.
Huell's file is very odd. The statute listed as larceny, so this must be his pickpocket file rather than the battery that just happened. But the location of the offense is listed as Chuck's house.
215. Exactly.
The 00 in the middle of his social security number means it's fake, but that's fine because the show shouldn't use real ones. However, starting with 331 means he would have been born in Illinois like Jimmy, but then his birthplace is listed as New Mexico. Plus, we know his hometown is in Louisiana, which is possible, but with all the other oddities, it feels like there are just a lot of oversights here.
None of his details add up.
The script imagined that Kim would be listening to Dreams, but they came up with a long list of Kim-appropriate songs. Ultimately, they went with Tempter because it was surprisingly affordable and they were low on money.
Make sure everybody's on the same page.
Oh, hey. You say something?
Yeah, I'm gonna head over to the nail salon and finish setting up.
Oh, it's a good idea. I'll see you later.
Peter said they stole this footage from season 1, and I found that it matches this scene from Nacho.
Clock says 2, but I think that might be Ho Chi Minh's time zone.
These are Cheez-Its from the future, as they didn't yet use a Cheez-It for the dash.
Wife mad at you?
She's not my wife. I don't know.
Yeah, she's mad at you. Go on.
That is not cucumber water, but it's cooking wine that isn't pleasant to drink due to how salty it is.
Take her to dinner. Nice place with a waiter. Cloth napkin. Whatever she says, you say sorry.
I think we might be past that.
It does appear that way, and many are expecting this breakup, as that would explain why we don't see Kim in Breaking Bad.
I'll leave the bottle.
Aw.
Famous Gary and the famouser Steph.
And Pat.
Come on in.
In real life, Suzanne's office from season 2 is indeed almost next to this conference room.
This is Gary Strout, Steph Carvanes, and Pat Molokowski, my associates.
Suzanne Erickson, you have a response to our proffer?
Time served, 3 to 6 months probation. We plead to simple battery.
18 months jail time down to nothing? I can't do that.
Okay.
This is a motion for continuance. There are several businesses nearby with security cameras. We need time to subpoena all of them.
Isn't that a bit much?
We don't believe the judge will see it that way.
To that end, we're filing a motion to compel discovery.
You want to open Officer Platt's personnel file. Good luck with that.
Officer Platt had a history with Mr. Babineau, and we'd like to know its extent.
And if there's any larger history Officer Platt has with friends, relatives, or colleagues of Mr. Babineau.
You're thinking of pursuing civil litigation.
We are in conversation with the ACLU.
Okay. Is that all?
For now.
Miss Wexler, a word in private.
I'll catch up.
Kim, you're throwing 3 $400 an hour associates at a pro bono case.
You got one part of that wrong.
I never said this was pro bono.
Shock and awe isn't going to cut it. Your client is still going away.
Okay. I guess we'll see.
Here you can see a crack in her facade and a nervous look. I'm going to assume that Kim did all the pre-work and she convinced them to come to the meeting for free. The mood is good among the boys.
Everyone seems much improved. This R&R was a good idea, Michael. Something the matter? Please, don't be concerned. No details, no scale at all. I said nothing about the construction that would not be true for thousands of others. By now, they have forgotten me entirely.
The German national in the middle of Albuquerque, talking about pouring hundreds of tons of concrete at a secret underground location.
I'm sorry, Mike, I had too much beer.
Some people think this is a slip-up from Mike to reveal they're in Albuquerque, but I don't think it is. Gus already introduced himself, and I'm sure there have been many clues. They also didn't seem to be blindfolded when going on their night out, and could have asked many other people what city they were in.
The man we're working for is very serious. Think about the precautions we take to keep everything that goes on here quiet. Think about what happens if something goes wrong. Do you understand what I am saying to you?
I do understand. You have my word. Nothing like this will happen again.
Okay.
His mouth didn't move.
Okay, let's get you to work.
Mike, exit. They filmed two versions of this. One where Mike was very angry and agitated.
You could have shut your mouth.
And the one they used where he's more composed and focused on landing the message. They also filmed two versions of Werner's apology. The one they used and one where he's kind of laughing through it and more clueless about how serious this is. Judge Munsinger is back. Ethan Phillips, who plays him, originally auditioned for Mr. Neff.
Are you prosecuting Santa Claus?
It must be Christmas.
Your Honor?
Because it looks like Miracle on 34th Street.
This was indeed the inspiration for the writers. And how fitting is it that after being rude to Kim about real-life cases not being like the movies,
This is the real world, Miss Wexler.
she burdens him with a case straight out of the movies. Kim's getting revenge against both Munsinger and Suzanne.
All addressed to me, all from some backwater in Louisiana. Look at Mercy for Hugh Babineau, they say. Miss Wexler, did you start this particular ball rolling?
Did I instruct the people of Coushatta, Louisiana to start writing letters to the court? No, Your Honor, I did not.
Technically true in more ways than one, but Kim cleverly answered a different question because the true answer to the judge's question was yes.
I do know they're planning to send a contingent here to show their support during the trial.
Are you talking about a bunch of yahoos packing my court?
This scam works uniquely well on Judge Munsinger as he really doesn't like spectators in his courtroom.
Next time I see you lurking in my court, I'm going to put you to work.
What does Mr. Babineau's relationship to his hometown?
This can't be a complete surprise to the assistant district attorney. She knows the defendant's history as well as I do.
If I receive one more letter from some swamp-dwelling do-gooder, I'm going to scream.
The character's ignorance about Coushatta definitely helps Kim and Jimmy pull this off. Part of this is shown by everyone mispronouncing what I understand should be Coushatta.
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 Even Jimmy's pronunciation guide is wrong, but this does not appear to be intentional as Peter Gould also mispronounces it.
Coushatta.
May I see one of these?
Please, take them all. I have looked at this case. It does not merit a circus. Now you two, work it out.
We've tried, Your Honor.
Try again.
Hold the Babineau file. We missed something? And I want to know what. Ben!
These Dell monitors are unrealistic for this government office in 2004.
Jesus, they do make him sound like Santa Claus.
This one has a phone number.
The best scam, the Mark feels smart. That was where the whole idea of doing the telephone gag came in.
Again, we've got the 318 area code numbers that start with a 1, but we can tell from the DTMF tones that that's not the number she's dialing, and the last button she presses is a 2, which matches neither number. There's a crazy story about this scene. Because they were very protective against leaks, they would only give actors the relevant portions of each script, but they accidentally didn't give Julie, who plays Suzanne, the pages for these phone calls. She had no idea she had all the lines in this scene and couldn't properly prepare. Bob came in on his day off so they could run through the lines together, and while filming he was behind this wall reading the other part of these conversations.
You've reached Elma Fontenot. Have a blessed day.
My number is 505-186-1945.
Now she's really dialing Elmer's number even though she's calling Eloise.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Lockhart. How exactly do you know Huel Babineau?
Everyone in Coushatta knows Hugh. He's a pillar of our church.
Which church is that?
Free Will Baptist, right over on Bogan Lane.
That's not real, although someone did add it to Google Maps. This Dell Latitude is from the future, and it looks like a D630, the same model Jesse used for the magnet test.
Magnets! Oh!
They do have different stickers, though. Jimmy's a better web designer than Junior, although they both used Comic Sans. And it's possible Jimmy paid Marshall to make it, since we later see him operating the donation feature. The church is stock art from the future with a photoshopped cross. And like SaveWalterWhite.com, this is a real website you can still visit. It plays the same organ music we'll hear in the show. They did make a mistake with this invalid zip code. They correctly used 71019 everywhere else. And we've got a new callable number. It's unfortunately no longer active, but Sayaka was able to dig up the voicemail you used used to hear when calling it.
Hello, Sheriff. You've reached this voicemail because God in His grace have led you to a humble congregation. Please leave a message after the tone, and I, Pastor Hanford, will personally return your call. We here at Free Will Baptist look forward to bringing you into our flock.
The audio for the 3 testimonials still works.
Shame on all who defame Huel Babineau's good name. He's a decent man of the highest principles. When it comes time for washing up after a barbecue or coffee hour, Huel's always there, helping out long after everyone else has left. No one cares more for his fellow man than Huel. Oh, free Huel Babineau.
This is Jake, and I guess I just want to say that Huel's like about the nicest person I ever met. This year my grades started to slip, and Huel tutored me by phone, all the way from Albuquerque. And I don't think I could have made it through algebra without the help of Huel. He's like the big brother I wish I had, because let's face it, my big brother sucks. He'd never do that.
I consider Huel my best friend. When I'm in trouble, he's the first person I call, because I know he'll be there for me. Nobody's a better listener, and when I talk to Huel, I feel like I'm in the presence of his glory. So, free Huel Babineau.
Although the dollar amount is fake, clicking donate takes you to the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana's website.
I'm handling a case that Mr. Babineau is involved in.
Handling how?
I'm prosecuting it.
You're the one persecuting our Huel? I tell you what I really think of you, but Jesus is listening, so shame on you!
Not too shabby.
I've been taking improv classes.
We can see the improvements.
For a limited time, we'll shoot your commercial today and have it on air tomorrow.
Oh shit, which one is it? It's the church. Hello there, Free Will Baptist, Pastor Hanford
speaking. Who this?
And I suppose I should have counted this last time.
I'm an assistant district attorney from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Ooh, that's a long way off, Sheriff.
When coming up with this idea, Peter had Bob's Senator Tankerbell character in mind.
Don't stick your willy into any of the 3 holes in the wall.
And Bob didn't disappoint with resurrecting the terrible accent.
What kind of person would you say Mr. Babineau is?
Him special.
You can see lighting equipment reflected in the phone.
He's got a heart as big as Lake Pontchartrain.
Here's another pronunciation butchering. I believe it's supposed to be Pontchartrain.
What did he do to gain so much devotion in Coushatta?
There was a fire at night. Old folks around here?
They like to brush up on the Bible before they go to sleep.
Get right, in case the Lord call them home.
Yes.
There was a short circuit in the old coffee maker.
The flame leaped up to the windowsill.
Well, Huel
Burst right in. And he carried out every last one of them oldsters.
He's describing a scene like the one in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, an inspiration for the show that we also talked about in the Season 3 finale. With Jimmy's inability to process his grief and guilt surrounding Chuck's death, could he subconsciously be thinking about saving Chuck? Even with the choice of Blaze as the pastor's name?
What happened to the church?
The church is fine.
In other words,
Don't get bogged down in the details.
the damage was
Temporary.
I know you're only doing your job.
I believe it's just a misunderstanding, and I believe
He might have been helping his friend, and that's the Huel that I know.
Writer Gordon pointed out that Jimmy's being sincere here, as he's the friend that Huel really was trying to help out.
Have you set a date yet for Huel trial?
No, not yet.
Bring me up when you do, because we got a couple of charter buses.
We're gonna bring the whole congregation up to y'all in Albuquerque.
I'll make sure to let you know.
Bless you.
Check and mate. They filmed one of the typical overhead shots in Jimmy's office, but it didn't make the cut.
Is it over?
Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take the church phone, pick up every 3rd caller.
So are we just supposed to hang around here?
You're paid for the day. You stay until I say you can go.
Jimmy assigned all the phones numbers with a 318 area code, something he had the power to do as a CC Mobile employee, assuming they're a national chain. Here's the wholesale cost of those 52 phones, but I assume he'll resell all but the 3 that used up minutes. And yes, all those chargers were included with the phones. People have asked, what about Jimmy or Kim's fingerprints on the mail, or couldn't they find out this is a fake church, or fake people, or that the fire never happened? But it's realistic that Suzanne can't afford the resources or time to spend on such things. Even if she had her suspicions, it's just not worth it for this case, especially with the pressure from the judge to make this go away. Contrast that with Jimmy and Kim, who put way more time and money into this than any sane person could have imagined. Perhaps the biggest oversight is that Suzanne could have easily found out that the website's domain was presumably just registered, but I guess none of them are tech savvy enough to think of this, especially in 2004.
Well,
they're back, baby, and it's once again a scam that brings them together.
woo, that's a beautiful red snapper.
It's like I'm in the bio.
Yes, well, I got crawdads in my pants.
phones were genius.
This was all you, start to finish. 4 months probation, time served. It's like watching Roy Hobbs smash out stadium lights.
Oh, what are you up to today?
Gonna check out an office on Lomas down by the courthouse.
Thought you already found one.
That one was a little more office than I needed.
Because it was an office for two.
We should be stable as a table by the time we start on Wyoming.
Stable as a table is more than I can say about those swaying lights.
6 months is gonna go by fast. Kevin, did you have something?
Oh, Paige will hate me for bringing this up.
What's on your mind?
Cowboy.
Last time I mentioned that the actor who plays Gary is known from Darman videos, but what I've also learned is that he's married to first assistant director Anna Ramey Borden.
What if we made the Lubbock branch the same as Tucumcari?
Originally, Lubbock, Texas was going to be Ogden, Utah instead.
What do you think, Kim? Can you pull another rabbit out of the hat for us?
I'm sorry, but I have to agree with Paige. Starting over now, there's simply no way we could stick to our timetable.
Okay, you were right. This time. Wyoming, then.
The scam that ignited their relationship.
That's a keeper.
Is Kim thinking of doing more slippin'?
The tunnel is holding and it's clear. And the form they used to pour cement into, it's totaled. So we're looking at 4, maybe 5 days for that.
Notice that Gus isn't moving in this scene, and they hide his legs with bins. After filming the previous episode, Giancarlo had a bad skiing accident and shattered his foot.
I love a ski trip.
Rich, now's not the time. So they had to get creative for the rest of his season 4 scenes, all shot at the end of the season with Tom Schnauz directing to give Giancarlo maximum healing time, but he couldn't put any weight on his foot. In these behind the scenes photos, you can see his knee is resting on something so his foot in a boot can stay off the ground.
The rock. That is more of an issue. We're back to blasting. Best estimate, we're a little past the halfway point, way behind schedule. But the work is solid.
And Werner?
I gave him the come to Jesus, said it won't happen again.
And what do you say?
I've got eyes on him. But yeah, he's good.
Is that water?
You asked for small and near court. This is both.
The first time watching this, I remember thinking, is this the famous Saul office?
Excuse me for a sec, would you?
But no, it's clearly not.
Is this your new office?
It's a contender.
It used to be a bank, and you can see the old teller window here.
What are you doing here?
I was driving, saw your steam in the parking lot.
She did know he was going to be there.
Gonna check out an office on Lomas down by the courthouse. So what's up?
Thinking about things.
Like their last office, there's a Kleinfeld sign on it.
I know what's on your mind. Ex parte communication, contempt of court, a couple 100 counts of mail fraud. I could have wrecked you.
Which is ironic, as mail fraud is what made the Sandpiper case so big.
In the U.S. mail, no less.
Kim has come a long way.
You fabricated evidence?
No one's gonna know about it.
What happened to...
They're never gonna find out.
Seriously, you sound like every dumb criminal out there.
We are totally done with all that.
His mouth doesn't match.
Totally done with all that.
But that is very mature. Maybe there's hope for these two after all.
No more.
Let's do it again.
Who's back there blaring a song from the future? In the credits, Jose is back to being the owner for some reason. This has all the traits of a Breaking Bad character reveal.
Oh, hey! Llegaste aquí justo a tiempo. Hold on one second. You are going to love this. I made this just for you. Te vas a morir.
Gould?
Gracias. I used to pasote, man. Come on.
The line was originally, I used cilantro, but Tony Dalton suggested the change to epazote since cilantro is a fairly common ingredient in Mexican cooking.
Es una receta especial, secreta, de la familia.
The Salamanca family.
Damn! Yo soy Eduardo, but you can call me Lalo.
Aha, he is a Breaking Bad character.
Lalo didn't send you? No, Lalo!
Recall that Nacho was originally named Lalo when they were writing season 1, but now both of these characters have become real. Part of the reason it took this long to introduce Lalo is that although Peter kept saying the show needed to answer who Lalo is, Vince disagreed. So it's not a coincidence that we got him this season while Vince wasn't involved day to day. I like that when Vince and Melissa Bernstein announced we'd see Lalo in season 4, the room of TV reporters was all confused, like, who? Although superficially he seems so friendly, there's no mistaking how menacing he is with probably 5 different power plays at once. Michael Mando pointed out how disrespectful it is to show up unannounced and cook in someone else's kitchen, while blaring music no less. He also makes Nacho guess who he is instead of just introducing himself, himself, pressures him to eat, and was sure to convey he knows all about Nacho already.
Y tú debes de ser Varga, ¿no? Sí, me dijeron que eras un tipo inteligente.
Lalo and Tuco both love to cook, but that might be where the similarities end. Speaking of Tuco and Lalo, the belt they give Lalo is similar to the one in this photo from Breaking Bad. It could be a retcon attempt to pass this off as Lalo, however, Vince confirmed at the time this was supposed to be Tuco.
What are you doing here? I'm just here to lend a helping hand, make sure the business is running in order. I got a good head for numbers. Don't even worry, it's gonna be like I'm not even here.
Now this puts a wrinkle in Nacho's plan. This video's not sponsored, but here's a 5-second ad for BetterWatchTV.com, which just got brand new HHHHHHM shirts to celebrate this 100th video. Congratulations and thanks to Max Kappa, who just joined the 2-year members, and to the new 1-year members. Giant Magician, Okinawa TV, Jiroxy, Marcus James, I Need to See Your Balls, Smitek Robert, Volcarona, Shader, Sam Schellenberger, Kenny, Alex Jackson, Cincinnati Bengals 100, Zane Chabuk, Stanciel 420, Alleged Cupid, David Raphael, Yellum 54, Wiver King, Cleep Park, Diedrich IV, Tess, Crazy Wolf CZ, Argo Tamame, Horse Red Biscuit, Fish Pink Radish Dog Green Egg, Ed Coded, Blaza 37, Angurirus 505, TZI, Better Watch TV, I Am Still in Your Walls, Samuel Weigert, Apathine, JSJ Inc., Mirandas, Dobard 1000, Tactical Twink, Alkivo, Sirati, Valova, Wanji Lee, White Stuff, Dad, Skittles BT, JCL, Kano, Mirror Q, Just Roff, Sam Trendy J, St. Pablo, Nostalgia Bobcat, Golden, Zeitz, Zvincter, Sniplor, Downplay Z1, Big Uncle Salty, Western Philosopher, Pincy, Sigmund, Sus, Brett SMH, Hot Chomper, Entreon, MS Smith, Steven, Yanwei, Nameless Wells, Kalo, Ulapofta Gubgub, Elam Adams, Dank Shunk Pink, Leo Leopak, Tabby Egg, Kanegat, El Samuel, Austin Bolmer, Emerson Lee, Gerson G, Juan Martin Fazati, Boost Chicken, PSI Guard, McCleavage, Shake, Tim Lampers, Chainsaw 06, Cosmic Curator, Tinkles, Moose, Daryl Andre, Damian Vergara, and Mouse House 2. And here are the new 6-month members. On Charler, Prime, Cheers, Sir Feedalot, Tiny Clown saying hello, Asking Claw, Grace, Krasnovich Ores, Grady Olive 93, Milkshake GD, Callie Carr, Riley McCullough, Tobe, Seth Oss, Anthony Abu Francis, Thesis and Thread, Blaz, Black Diamond, Rohilo, Complications, Sip, Zealous Retin 102, Stellar Hippo, Flamius, Jacob, Logan Hembry, Murdolph, Wojciech Sternad, Sizzle Lighter Brass Tack, Space Goes Coast to Coast, Don Plato, Big Spaghetti 69, No Face 99, Mgo Films, Sego Music, Kobe Rubin, Winter, Avery, Sean Cliff 17, Mr. Killmeister, Sammy is Spicy, Brian Leonard, John Smith, Bajoff 00, Alex the Pit Snoggler, Rena the Akia, It Center, 4VRC, Beef 510, One Life, Kyos, Nidhi Rocktar, Mason, Hana, Kyle, Jesse Reason, Donovan New Day, Papa John's, Delaney Hall, Seven Nebby, Totoro Raptors, MC Heisenberg, Colin, Drew Muller, Josh Aberdeen, Chuck, Kasubi, Dale Gribble 14, Marcus Sim, Elian, Dante Gutierrez, Razorbug, Franticlamp, Coles, Shane Souls, Justin McGill, Eric Sullivan, Barmiro, Rafiq Samiz, Minkle, Andy Starr, Brian Bradley, Raft, Silver Sophie 66, Mason TC, Howard Dawson, DJ Rainstorm, Bonus Blake, Chris, and Jasper 3948. Next time, Vince is back to direct his first episode since Gus was introduced.
Miss, tell me.
Sorry.
No lo puedes. Lo tienes que probar esto. Estás loco. I'm sorry, fucked it up.
I like their shells better. You make regular mac, and it's just like, who cares, But the shells, you just open up the cheese packet, put it in, and it's done. And the shells taste better.
Here, baby. There. It's better, right?
Paca, 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 en mi caballo.